I agree, but I also disagree in a way because I feel like it doesn't always depend on the individual. Welcome back to The Biggest Talk. For all you listeners tuning in for the first time, we break down some of the most influential bestsellers of our generation and read them, so you don't have to. We are your hosts,
Ira.
Sebastian.
and Harrison.
For today's video, we will be going over laws 6 through 10 of John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
So if you didn't catch the first 5, you might want to go back and watch that.
That's right. So jumping straight into it, let's start off with law number 6, law of the solid ground
Trust is the foundation of leadership.
of anything, in my
Of anything,
opinion.
yes,
Honestly,
yes.
trust, even now saying honestly, right? You guys trust me to speak the truth and
Yeah.
to be on this show and just give it all my all.
Yeah, you really can't do anything without doubt if you don't trust somebody, right?
Yep.
That's right. That's right. How can you do anything when you're afraid of what the other person's going
Yeah,
to
you're
do?
afraid of the outcome.
Right.
Everything is a relationship, and you can't have a relationship without trust.
Definitely.
And what is
definitely.
leadership? All relationships.
All
Mhm.
relationships. Influence. You can't influence someone if they don't trust you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Shoot.
So something else that I have is you can't take shortcuts as a leader, right?
Mhm.
You have to build that trust. Even
Right.
some people, it might take so long, right? Like we
Right.
talked about the change, right, in the pocket. Like, wait, did we talk about that yet?
No, not yet.
Oh shit.
It's
well,
okay.
We'll hit on that.
Yeah, I mean, the change, for all you people who don't know yet, maybe you guys haven't read the book, but the change is something that you accumulate. Maxwell talks about you get a couple pennies, a couple quarters every time you do something good, something trustworthy. But when you make a mistake, you lose way more change that you make in
Than
doing
you
something
earn.
good when you make a mistake.
Yeah, chump
right?
change.
So what he was talking about is all that change. Like, how do you accumulate that backing, that follower, that ability to make people believe in you?
Yeah, it's hard. Trust is hard to earn, bro.
Extremely. I mean, when we look at one of our most prominent presidents, Richard Nixon, right? He's a
Yep.
good-looking guy, extremely popular in the presidency.
No
But
homo.
after Watergate, he lost all trust in his own party.
Yeah.
People hated him. People didn't want to believe in him.
Yeah.
They felt that he was a crook, right? And he was forced to resign out
Yeah.
of that race.
Mm-hmm. Can't lead without any trust.
Exactly.
Something else I have here is to build trust, you must consistently exemplify competence, connection, and character. And it's very important, to display, what you're trying to get from others, right? Because you're going to attract that. And to build that trust, people have to look up to you in some sense, right?
Definitely.
Yep.
There has to be something for them to be willing to invest that relationship. I mean, you never blindly trust someone.
Yeah.
I mean, when for example, you have your parents, right?
Yeah.
They've looked after you your entire life, or even your best friends when you're in your bottom of the bottom, right? You're having lows, and they're there for you, and they're picking you up.
Not
So
always,
you trust
but yeah.
right? Not always,
Yeah.
but
Every
okay, for the
situation's
majority of
different,
people,
yeah.
right? When they're picking you up in those situations, you kind of trust them to be there for you,
Yeah.
right? You call them trusting that they will pick up that phone, you know.
Yeah.
So it's always something going to be exchanged, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're exactly on the point that trust in relationships, like Ira said earlier, you can't have anything without it.
Exactly. And the next law is the law of respect. So anyone want to touch on that?
Respect is also very important to have.
Yes.
Indeed, it is very important to have. But what does respect, really mean when you're a leader, right? Why is it so important for me to have respect? Not about you two, but it's important for me to know that the people who are following me admire me. They are watching my entire move so that I can perform my best for them. Because when you're talking about respect, as a person that you are respected as, you kind of lose the freedom to do whatever you want. You gain so much more responsibility. And that's what earns you that respect, the ability to act under that guideline and perform it the best that you can, and and build a show for the people who are following you.
Yeah, and I think respect is a big thing with when people are gonna follow you, right? Because if you're a leader and people don't really admire you to a certain extent, they're not gonna
Exactly.
do what you're telling them.
you know?
And at that point, you're not a leader, you know.
Mhm.
Because as a leader, you're setting the path. You're setting the dots that you want to connect towards a goal, you know?
Yeah.
But what if you're going there and you're like, all right, this is what we need to do.
Yeah, you're
And
just
then
sitting
one
in
of
your
your
high
followers
horse.
doesn't respect you, you know?
Right.
I wouldn't really say that's really a follower, but he's just there like, why do we do that?
And that's why mutiny exists.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, when you're the first mate and you watch your captain and you lose respect for all the decisions that he's making, and you build a mutiny with the people under him, you're like, hey, we don't want you leading us anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in this day and age, it's a lot more free. When I don't respect someone, when I don't want to follow anyone anymore, I just click that unfollow button, unsubscribe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
want to see your tweets no more. Get out of my feed,
Yeah.
right? So for us, it's a little bit easier to do nowadays. I feel like
Yeah.
technology has definitely made it a lot more enabling for people to be a little bit more picky with what they want and who they follow
Yeah,
and who they see and the people
it's-
around them.
It's pretty bad, you know, just to select your input, you know, you won't get exposed to
Right,
everything,
definitely,
you know.
definitely.
But that's a whole nother topic, you know.
Mhm.
So let's hit the next law, the law of intuition.
Law of intuition is something really that can't be taught because it's not a very factual
But yeah.
Definitely, definitely. You know, law of intuition, I almost think about it the same way of like law of instinct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because intuition, you're based off of your past experiences, you're trying to predict what's gonna happen next, and you're gonna use that to make your next move.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, General I forgot his name, but maybe Patton. I forget exactly who it is.
It was
Yeah, I don't quite remember either.
General Schwarzkopf.
Yeah,
Schwarzkopf.
So Patton's a
Close.
little off.
Yeah, a little.
Right.
Yeah, a little off the
a little bit
dot.
off.
It's
You know,
all
not even the same army, but
So
good. All good.
But Schwarzkopf, you know, the law of intuition, he decided to take up a platoon, right? I mean, the past, the history has set, the history was written that every leader, commander that tried to take over this platoon had failed.
Yeah.
Right? And I also feel like law of intuition, it forces you to look at something with perspective. Why did they fail? Not because of the people themselves, but because of the leader. I mean, the first thing that happened to him when he entered this tent was that the previous commander, which he relieved, passed him a bottle of scotch, said, hey, you're going to need this, right?
Mhm.
He had already set his own team up for failure. He had already disbelieved in his own ability, not only his own ability, but in his men's ability
Yeah.
to perform at the level at which they need to do to be a good platoon. But short,
yeah, when Schwarzkopf stepped in, he immediately saw what was going wrong
Mhm.
with the
Yeah,
previous leader.
Immediately.
And then
yeah.
that's when his leadership intuition kicked in. And so he was able to turn the battalion of embarrassment into a battalion of example of how other.
one of the
would
best.
wanna
Yeah,
be.
He ended up
top
being one of the
performers.
best.
Mhm.
Now I feel like a lot of intuition. It also touches on like, what do you need to be a leader? Like leaders, some leaders they're naturally born.
Mhm.
Some leaders can learn how to lead,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, not everyone's perfect.
Mhm.
Not saying that people who are naturally born are necessarily better than people who are learning how to lead, but they definitely have a certain advantage over the
Yes,
people who are learning.
definitely.
And then on the other hand, you have the people who just are not leaders at all. They're just not meant to be.
Followers.
Mhm.
They lack that
Mhm.
mentality.
And
So,
that's
you know,
okay too.
Right, definitely, it's
Yeah.
okay. So you know, as we're talking about this, like, what do you guys feel like you guys are?
I feel like it personally I feel like I am someone who was not very naturally born as a leader but has that drive and can be nurtured into a leadership position.
Mm-hmm. For me, at this point in my life, I'd feel like more of a follower. Obviously, leadership is a goal in my life, right? Because my strive is for purpose and influence. So leadership is a very appealing
Yeah.
for me to try and work towards, right? It's not appealing
Right.
for everyone, but right now it's really about learning, right? And taking in from all these other leaders, right? Being a follower and just listening, sitting, you know, putting my head down and just listening until I get to a point where I could start leading, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And for me personally, you know, I always felt that I was the natural leader. I was born to be the natural leader, and as I was young, I was always a kid, you know, on the playground, like, okay, let's play this game, let's play this game, let's play this game. But as I am growing older, as I'm maturing a little bit, and I realize, hey, you know, my pride is getting me into a lot of situations, and I feel like I'm failing in them because I believe that I'm such this strong, naturally born leader that I feel like almost even now, after reading his book, I feel like I'm more of a leader who's trying to learn.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much actively and trying to grow my leadership, trying to find ways to better myself and better the
Exactly,
people
yeah.
around me, rather than just saying, hey, you know, I'm your guy, let me handle it, and then failing.
Yeah, that's also something that I touched on in our previous video too. How it's like, to be a real leader, you can never stop
Definitely.
being a follower. You know, you always
Definitely.
have to be willing to learn, to put in that extra work. You know, someone says, "Oh, you're not doing this right," you know, give them the belief of doubt and just be like, "Okay, what is it?" You know,
Right.
and then don't really like take it too to heart, but like look at it as a chance to improve yourself. You know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So back to intuition a little, right? It's more. I think intuition is more about having that experience, though.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be too intuitive without experience, because that's
Yep.
more of ignorance, right?
Mhm.
Jumping
Right.
into things
Right.
that you don't really know.
And you know, the fact is, you're never gonna know everything that's gonna
Yeah,
happen when you do
definitely.
something. You just have to accumulate the most that you can. If you don't have experience in the subject, talk to someone who does.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mhm.
Maybe if you don't have a lot of experience in cars, like myself, you know, Ira, I know he loves to work on his car. I always get these texts, these photos of what he's doing to his car. Like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. I'm so excited, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I have a car issue, I talk to him. So when I go change my oil, it's not running everywhere and making a whole mess and getting me in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So it's important that you use this law of intuition, not only as recognizing it as a strength, but also as a crutch that you can rely on the people around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
So moving on, the law of magnetism.
Law of magnetism.
I feel like this is a very important law.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very.
I think important for even the follower, right?
Right.
Not just to be a
definitely.
leader. It's just you.
Yeah.
This concept, you have to understand that you attract what you are and who you are,
Mhm.
and that the people around you are all those people around you that are closest to you compose you
Right.
in a sense, your
Right.
personality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to note that Maxwell states that who you attract is not determined by who you want.
Mhm.
Exactly like you said, Sebastian. It's about who you are.
Yes.
When you look at someone, you look at your best friend, you look at a mirror, right? Because when you guys are in a situation, you guys tend to think the same way. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you guys wouldn't be getting along.
Mhm.
So, who do you want in your leadership team? Like we mentioned in the beginning, he says, build a leadership team. Recognize your strengths, recognize your weaknesses. Find people around you that share the same ambitions,
Mhm.
goals, principles as you, morals, even,
Mhm.
and allow them to take over those positions of your life,
Yeah.
and not feel like, you know, I
Yeah.
can do everything. I can
And
do
with the
everything, I can
law-
do everything.
And with the law of magnetism, it's not just so much finding
Mhm.
people who share the same goals and same
Mhm.
morals, but it is also making sure that you as a person live out those goals and morals.
Right.
Because if
Right.
you say one thing and do another,
Yes.
you're not going to attract people from what you say. You're going to attract people from what you are doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
And don't you feel it's extremely confusing when someone's like, "Hey, you should invest your money in stocks and, you know, real estate and
Mhm.
this and that, and you're
And
gonna
you're
make
like,
a ton of
"Whoa,
money."
are
and
you
it's
real
like,
estate?
Exactly. It's like,
Are you? Is your money in there?
right. It's like you still live in
It's
your
like,
parents'
no.
basement, you
Yeah.
know.
It's like, but I heard it's good. You know,
Right,
of course,
definitely.
Yeah.
So it can be very confusing to whoever you're trying to
to
reach
attract.
and
yeah.
touch.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And I also think something that I've noticed is it's still hard to attract like-minded people. You really have to seek them out to a sense, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't talk to that many new people on a daily basis if I'm not intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the
Mhm.
case, I'm not really gonna attract too many people into my life. Or at this
Definitely.
point, it seems that way. I don't know how you guys experience like your interactions with people, if they're more like-minded or not so much.
I think in this day and age, like you said earlier, I agree, but also disagree in a way because I feel like it doesn't always depend on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, you know, with technology advancing so quickly, everyone's on their smartphone, right? We're the smartphone generation,
Yeah.
and we have a tendency to feel disconnected from reality because we pick and choose what we want to see on our feeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the aspect of connecting with someone, when this public speaking kind of relationship building thing happens, we almost feel like we're intimidated because we don't have those skills.
Mm-hmm.
So like you
Yeah.
said, a lot of it is, you know, being intentional, but I also feel like it's a little bit subliminal when we look at our history and our past and really analyze, like, why do we feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it difficult for us to reach a connection? Why is it difficult for us to even start the connection?
Oh yeah.
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 All right. So moving on, we have law number 10, which is the law of connection.
Unintentionally mentioned connection in my last sentence.
That's a great segue.
That's right.
Yep.
So the law of connection is how a leader touches your heart before they ask for a hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people have watched that commercial where it plays the sad music and it's like 20 cents a month will save a puppy,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, oh shoot, where's my wallet, right? I mean, it's definitely intense. I mean, when you see these commercials, they're designed to get you. they're designed to make you reach for a wallet because you feel some emotional
because emotions
attachment.
always take people
Right.
over first, right? Like all luxury brands, it's because you wear it because it makes you feel a
That's
certain
right.
way. It's the same as everything else,
Yeah.
right? I mean, of course, it has that better quality, but it's not worth that price. But how it makes you feel, you say it's worth that price.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And if we look at someone who was of leadership position, if you look at one of our past presidents, George W. Bush, when 9/11 happened, he took the time out of his schedule to go down there and shake hands with the firemen and the people who were working and say, it's like, you're doing this for our country and we're all so very thankful for this, you know?
Yeah.
Him doing that and him taking pictures with them and then showing his love to them, that really helped connect him with the American people.
Yeah, I mean, he could have said all that stuff from his ivory tower, at the White House, and
Right.
just
Yeah,
been like,
Right.
yeah, you guys, you're doing it for the people. But for him to go on the
Mhm.
ground level, gains that respect that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know what? Building off of that point, I also think it's notable to discuss that in his second term, I believe,
Yeah.
he failed to do that. And we see
Yeah.
just how
During-
important the
that
law of
changes.
connection
During
right?
Hurricane Katrina, the people of
Exactly.
New Orleans were really
Mhm.
suffering for it.
Mhm.
No one from government leadership came to support them, you know?
Right. And he sat in Air Force One, circled the place, and left. I mean, there
Yeah.
was nothing like the first time where he was on ground zero, like Sebastian said, shaking hands with people, like Ira said, knowing people by their first name, saying, thank you, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, you first responders.
Mhm.
So it's very important to keep it in mind.
Yeah.
Definitely. Another point that he
yeah.
talks about is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
Right.
Going
Yeah.
back to that emotional connection, because you could have all the solutions to all their problems, right? But if they don't know how much you care about them, they don't care about what you know, right?
Right.
Like we talked about, like professors, if they're smart, you might not strive for that if you realize they don't really care about you sitting in their class, they don't acknowledge your presence, right?
I feel like one of the most difficult things that instructors, like Sebastian mentioned, struggle with is how do they connect with their classroom?
Yeah.
I mean, some teachers obviously don't care and they're just there to collect that paycheck.
Yeah.
But you notice that the teachers that are most successful
Are the ones who
build
really
that
care.
Engaged, yeah.
connection. Right.
Yeah. They have that connection with their students, you know? They tell them they really care.
Yeah, you hear story after story about like those really ghetto schools that really don't have a lot of success in like mathematics and science,
Mhm.
and that one teacher that just really believes they can do it. They connect with each student, tutoring. They believe in that student. That student starts to believe in themselves,
Right.
and they have the success rate. And year after year, it just gets better and better.
Yep.
And the compounding effect.
Right. So even going broader than just teaching and education, I mean, you always hear people mention their mentors when they're becoming to be successful. They're like, really, it's not me.
Mhm.
It's the people before me. It's the
Yep.
people's shoulders that I'm standing on
Yep.
top of.
Because you
that I'm
always
able
learn
to.
from others, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So it's never you, right? Because you're just combination of what others are.
Right. And like we were talking about a little bit more offset, that John is probably around 70 years old. Let's say 70 years old, okay? Conservatively. He has written this book and he's condensed 40 years of trial and error for us to just take and really eat the fruit of his labor.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
And know that we are receiving all the information that he wants us to know, not all this kind of mumbo jumbo that we have to
Yeah.
decipher.
If he was
through
in
ourselves.
5 years, right? Like he could give us probably some good things, but also a lot of it we might take and it might not be right.
Right.
But when you have that many years, it's like that's half a lifetime of experience.
It's
And you can't get
definitely-
much better than that.
Definitely,
Mhm.
definitely.
So I think that's all for today.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Any other
thank
points?
you for tuning in this episode, and I hope you all have a blessed day.
Let's go out and get this bread.
That's right.